episode, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Tia, episode 2, a tea production special. A talk show where we get up close and personal with Second Life talents and creators. I'm your host, Tia Merchant, and today in our show, we have Jon Nakagawa. He is the owner of Paragon Animations, a dance company bringing real-life celebrity dancing choreography into Second Life. So without further ado, let's welcome in Jon Nakagawa. Welcome in, Jon, to Coffee with Tia. Today at our studios, we are very humble and very pleased to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here. I saw some of your videos in the past, and I'm like, I was pretty impressed. I was like, oh, where you been hiding this whole time,
No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for that lovely words. I'm a great fan of Paragon as well. I love the animations Paragon does for dancing. It's more like we can enjoy Second Life dancing our way along with Paragon. So brilliant.
Glad you enjoy our work.
I get the pack every month and I'm just overjoyed when Paragon comes out. So I'm just like, I need to make something new and refreshing this time for the dancers, and I love it, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to your other work. The last one I saw was the one that you did, Parallel Universe Productions, right? That's the one. Yeah, I saw that. And I was like, oh, wow, it's pretty, next thing you know, I'm here doing an interview.
Thanks a lot. Okay, so let's get started with firing you with our fiery questions.
All right.
Okay, so my first question to you is, Jon,
Mm-hmm.
can you tell us a little more about your journey into Second Life and what inspires you to create the dances virtually?
Well, so this whole thing is Second Life Paragon project back then was created based on the concept of what if I could bring these real life dancers that I got inspired by from watching their YouTube, bringing that talent, that level of dance in virtual world. A long time ago, I heard this thing from Tony Robbins, right? It says, pick something that you're really passionate about and put it together, right? And so the thing is, I love dance. I was never a professional dancer. I was good, but not great. The people who are great, they go on to become, the people that I've been hiring, right? And I used to dance, love dance, and I'm also a sucker for video games in the past. So this whole project was kind of a melding between the two passions. Sure enough, Paragon was created as a result of that, and here we are today after 3 years. And we opened in, it was February 26, 2019.
That's basically pre-pandemic, and now you have soared through pandemic and you're still here with such great big family of Paragon. So well done to you on that. Wow,
yeah, thank you. And then I owe it to a lot of folks like you and my other patrons that really support us and all that. But I'm glad to be here and fill in a market where certain dancers were lacking. Pretty much we're here for the market, we're here for the SL, we're here for the grid.
Absolutely. And I think your contribution as well in terms of dancing, in terms of bridging out the gap between the real life and Second Life, bringing something new to the table at the same time, utilizing the whole of pandemic virtually. I think that's something very commendable, really commendable. And it also creates a lot of job opportunities as well as eyes on Second Life. So a big shout out to you on that. People actually come and, realize what Second Life is through the dances we put out there. And then there's much more eyes to Second Life now, and all thanks to you as well. You being part of a big community by contributing your dances to it.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. That's the whole thing is, it's to a point where we're trying to later on, create this awareness and bridge the real life to Second Life and just create the awareness outside. There's only so much that I can do, but, I did coordinate with the Linden Labs marketing team before, and I brought, certain dance celebrities over. Brianfriedman was the most recent one that I did. He's Britney Spears choreographer. He was like the judge of America and Britain Got Talent for the season 1. And that was very helpful. I'm hoping later on in the future I can bring really big name celebrities, because I have ties with them now through their dancers and stuff. It's something that I want to do in the future, and hopefully it helps, because the more people that knows about Second Life and do come here, it benefits everybody. It benefits the whole community. It the creators. It's a classic case of the more the merrier.
I agree to that. I mean, having those big names, as you mentioned, we also keep seeing your real life interviews as well with those choreographers on Facebook, and it's absolutely like awestruck because we as second lifers, we're not used to kind of we know it's our community and we have less interaction with the real world in terms
Right.
of bridging the gap. And I remember when I did come across one of your interviews with like real life choreographers and celebrities, and I was like, oh my God, this guy actually is, bringing real life into second life with all these famous celebrities and the influencers, I would say, that would actually, help to get the word out there. So it's really, really, awestruck work what you do out there. So in terms of these choreographers, so you worked with many successful choreographers, you've worked with many upcoming ones. What would you say, who is going to be your all-time favorite choreographers?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one because we try to bring people from different dance genres too. Like the best people. Like I brought Alia Mohammed, which is she was like the number one leading authority on belly dancing, which I know you like. That type of So it was vintage style, and really knowing she's like well known in that. So Brianfriedman was one of the founding fathers of jazz funk. So we try to bring what I call the iconics, the paragons, which is what our name is based off of. Iconics of these different dance genres. But for me personally, I mean, my dance background was all in hip hop. And when I got older, I started moving more into Latin, like couples dances and all that kind of stuff. So, and this is just my personal taste and all that, but, like some of my favorite ones were, of course, the hip hop dancers like, Andre Scrooby, which is one of Chris Brown's dancers, and his style is one of the very few that I connect with. Mike Peel is a, good friend of mine. He was actually my first dance teacher in Los Angeles, and I knew he was going to be a big hit here. So I brought him a couple times, and we'll see him some more for sure. But those are some of the standouts that I personally, it's just me. But we got so many more we're going to bring for sure.
Absolutely, and we look forward to each one of those. We look forward to that with bright and open eyes.
Yeah, we just want to keep it something new every time. A different genre comes in. Something new. We want to keep it fresh, unpredictable, and new content. The last thing I want is our dances start looking the same, and you just got to keep on leveling up and building off on that new innovation, something that's never been done before.
No, absolutely. I completely agree to that. So in terms of leveling up and in terms of bringing something fresh and new to the market, how do you respond to the Second Life dance competitors you have out here in world?
Well, it's they pretty much everyone pretty much first of all, I'm pretty much on good terms with all of them. So when I first came to the scene, it was basically I saw a huge gap, right? The two most visible brands was like you have German techno on one side, you have Afrofusion, which is like completely diametrically opposed, right? And then you have nothing in the middle. There's like belly dancers are missing, K-pop, American hip hop. So many dance genres are missing, and I saw an opportunity in that market to come in and fill that gap. And there was a huge demand. So our style is pretty much we focus on the more popular trendy dances, right? Like like I mentioned before, even Western or country dances. There's a demand for that. There's a demand for belly dances. All these K-pop too was largely ignored. So we're filling up all this gap, and it's been great. There's a market for that, and we just want to do it good. And so I bring in all the big names, which is our marketing edge. That's our uniqueness in our product, is to bring these actual big name dancers and share their talents to Second Life.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's what my next question was going to be for you. What regional and ethnic dances do we expect from Paragon? Because we've seen a lot of K-pop coming recently to Paragon, and we love it, absolutely. We see all these dances. I remember being part of creating, in fact, one of the dances for K-pop. KDA Pop Stars?
Yes,
That was a big one.
That was a big one, yeah. That was very... when we got KDA Pop Stars, that was with the actual choreographer, and that was not easy to get. But it turned out that she was in LA, and I was like, oh, cool. And I just reached out. She didn't have an agent, so I contacted her manager, and that was one crazy deal that worked out at the very last minute. And I was like, yay, finally got people asked about it, and sure enough, made it a reality.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
as for your question about that, so I know I talked to you about before the Bollywood dances, like the Angra, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's something that you can expect, right? That's one of the dances. Um, Type of dances that that's not really much of a priority right now is like the real like ethnic dances, because I had a couple Brazilians that asked me, oh, there's all these like Brazilian folk dances like forte. Someone was asking me about Greek dances. Somebody was asking me about Indian powwow, and it's
Yeah.
toughest one is like it's as much as I would like to do them, and also the Hawaiian hula. And I'm from Hawaii, right? Hula is a real big part of that, and I would like to do hula, but the problem is you're kind of stuck in this because mocap is so expensive to do. It has to make business sense, right? If I do these dances, then I'm going to take a loss. So it's a matter of like, okay, how much losses can I take versus, so it's one of those things that you kind of got to balance. So it's not like that, we don't want to do them. I would love to do them if, they won't be as popular as certain, type of genres. And that's what we need to focus on, only because mocap is just so expensive to do.
I think we were just speaking earlier about mocap as well, and you were explaining us how expensive the equipment is. So can you tell us a bit more about mocap for the people who do not know what mocap is? So how does mocap tie in with Paragon and to bringing in virtual reality into, dances into the virtual world, please?
Absolutely. I don't know. I don't bore people, but it's a long process. So basically, okay. So motion capture exists in different types. There's different types of motion capture. There's very cheap ones that you can do, but the quality ultimately. We use what's called optical mocap, which is the highest grade of motion capture. That's what's used in movies. Like for example, Disney did Mandalorian season 1 was done on the OptiTrack Prime 41 system, which is what we use. They didn't use our system, but they probably bought their own because Disney got so much money. And also AAA video games like Call of Duty and all that uses motion capture, that type of optical motion capture. So it has the highest, it looks the most realistic, probably about 95% close to the actual motions. And it's also very expensive. For example, one OptiTrack Prime 41 brand new would be about 6,000, and you need many of those. The more cameras that you have, the better coverage you can get. Also, the more people you can capture. If you want to capture 20 people, then you're going to probably need over 120 something cameras, which there's places that do have them, like EA Games. So that's what we use. In terms of so once you've captured that data, we have to turn that into animations, right? Which is a whole different process, exporting it into Second Life.
Do you think that would take for you to kind of capture it and then export into Second Life? What is the process that goes behind?
All right, so I'll go from the very beginning.
Go for it.
Yeah, my main job outside of Second Life is when we start phase called pre-production, I have to do all the logistics. I have to contact the dancers, their representative agents, managers, negotiate the deals, the contracts, and all that kind of stuff, right? Also, I got to handle the logistics of getting the crew together, my crew. There's a production crew that's involved in making beats, and that takes maybe about 2 weeks, and depending on the dancer. Some are kind of like, they don't get back to you real quick. Some's really quick, which is why I like to deal with the agents. And once you have that, then you have the actual production day, which is very stressful. We try to get it done in 8 hours, because anything over 8 hours, you start paying double time and time and a half. So, we try to, but we've always been real good, quick, efficient, on time. Production day, 1 day. Right. Then you have post-production. So we take all this data, and I was explaining to you earlier, we have to clean this data because it's, there's optical motion, there's a lot of things that can happen. Your markers getting covered. So we have to clean this data. And so we go through different phases of doing that through motif, the big stuff on motif, like the marker swaps and all that. And then later on, it goes to a second phase where we have to clean up all these elbow twists because, Second Life limitations, we have to do extra work. Do the hands and all that kind of stuff, the looping, just it's more on a smaller scale. And lastly, we go through a quality control phase where, we make sure that everything, there's no glitches, nothing was missed. And then after that, the marketing aspect, getting it into Second Life, the marketing, getting into the events. So it's a process. It's a pipeline.
Well, that sounds really, really complicated. And, the effort that goes behind it is, I'm sure it's just, it's much more than we can ever expect. And all thanks to you and your team for bringing out such talents out there. And, for us to actually have a taste of what we can expect on Second Life. So that's a brilliant, brilliant approach. And it sounds really complicated just by hearing on it,
It is. It is. I mean, it's got to a point where it's kind of a routine for us. The hardest part was when we first started, but now it's kind of routine. But still, it's a lot of work, and that's why I only want to do like 3 releases, per month. I mean, 4 at the very most, because after that, it's like, it's too much. I just keep it simple, keep it to 3, and the revenue that we make, and 3 seems to be a good number. Too much, because if you do too much, you start overwhelming your customer base. It just gets too much, too overwhelming. You want to put out enough content, not just too much where you overwhelm your patrons, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's agreed. That's agreed. I mean,
Yeah.
as much as we love to have every day a new product, but you
Yeah.
have to make sure that it does not get overboard with customers as well. So brilliant.
Right, yeah. Because then also, we do use a lot of like big names. So it's like if I have like continuously a star coming in, every like a big star series coming in, every month, and then it starts becoming, everyone it becomes not important. It
Exactly.
becomes everyone starts, it just so I kind of like try to spread that out, kind of mix it up.
No, absolutely. I think if we have a new star every day, then we would lose the star impact that we have, don't we? So we'd like to keep it smooth with
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely, too much is not good.
My next question would be along those lines of limitation. What is the biggest challenge that Paragon faces? What is the biggest limitation on SL that Paragon faces?
One of the biggest stuff, like on the technical side is a couple things. One is the Second Life skeleton. It's very basic, rudimentary. Could use some improvements because and I don't think it was really made to handle mocap. Out of the hits, like the joints, a lot of animators can tell you that they're dealing with a lot of joint twists, and we have to clean that up. And that's something that my outside, like in the video gaming world, that they don't have to do. But so everything is like a lot of double work that's involved, like cleaning up that kind of stuff because of the the skeleton. So we could really use a better skeleton. That's one of the biggest ones. Another limitation is that we're only limited poses, animations. I believe it's 245 kilobytes file, right? That generally gives you 20 frames per second for 30 seconds. So we like to just keep it like 30-second animations. Is kind of we think it's a good amount, right? Now, if you want more, you've seen people with 60-second animation, but they have to drop the frame rate to like 12 or 10, and I don't want to do that at all, because at that point, that's you can start seeing the frame skips. It becomes a lot more obvious. Now, ideally, I would love to do minute-long animations. There's a limit on the file size, and whenever you have hand animations, all that kind of stuff that uses keyframes, right? That takes up memory from the 245. So your animations are going to be short. So those are some of the limitations, top of my head that you have to deal with. That we don't deal with anything else. So it's a lot of work in that sense, and we have to work double just to take care of all that.
Sounds very tricky as well with the way you've just explained. Like it sounds so much like once you have your final product, and then you have to keep in mind these limitations, and then upload, and then kind of take care of everything. So the final product that we actually get is actually after a lot of chops and cuts and everything. So
yeah, just a lot of chops and cuts. It's also tricky too, because when you make a loop, you have to loop at the right points, and it's not always going to be at the 30-second mark. It's really up to the dancer and all that kind of stuff, and we have to find where the loop points are, or else it's not going to be. You won't have a good transition, right? So that's where I came in, and that's all my department, that I have to handle all that stuff.
I think you're really acing your job. Let me tell you that, because all of the animations that bang on time, bang on with the time limit, bang on with the smoothness and easiness of it. So you're doing actually a good job on your end.
Thank you so much. I'm glad. I hope so. So far the feedback's been pretty positive. So
of course. With that being said, what would you say on top of your head is your biggest sellers in terms of dance? What is your biggest seller dancing genres?
The biggest sellers would probably be club grooves. You're always going to have that. That's always going to be your biggest sell, and which happens to be the dance genre that I hate doing the most.
Do you? Why is that?
It's just not, like I said, I'm an artist, right?
Yeah.
And it's like club groove is not like, it's doesn't have the wow factor. Like when I see stuff like on YouTube and all that kind of, that's what inspires me as a creator, right? As a dancer. Club grooves, it's not really, it's not really why I came here to do. It's kind of like going to Versace and goes, hey, can you make me a T-shirt, kind of thing, right? Now, T-shirts are in demand. Everyone's gonna wear that, but to make that, it's kind of like, no. So, but it has a place. So it's kind of like you gotta do them. Kind of like you go to like Steven Spielberg or something, and you say, hey, can you direct one of those blow 'em up movies like Fast and the Furious? It's kind of like he's not gonna,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I'm kind of the same way. I have all these big name, high-end elite dancers, and for me to ask them to do a club groove, it's like, oh man, it's such a waste of talent.
Exactly, yes, because they are like specialities in their field. They say, for example, someone is special in contemporary, or someone is special in
Right.
a hip hop or any other
Yeah.
genre. But then a club groove is like a normal. I'd say club groove is mostly kind of like a freestyle.
Yeah, it's freestyle. I mean, it's more not even. I mean, it's freestyle and it's non-lyrical and it's just, very basic, casual,
Yeah.
body movements. I mean, you can make it look good. Some people make it look good, and I think that's the trick, is just to make a club groove look as good without making it look too choreographed. At the end of the day, that's it has a big demand. Like for example, Sarah Lopez, that club groove, it remains to be like the biggest seller, and I think she really hit it. And I know there's a lot of dancers that are not big that dance like that, so that's something I'll do later on, maybe when I retire. But for now, it's like there's just too many good dancers to bring. And normally to get the club grooves in, I would just ask them and say, hey, can you do like a simple groove, And some people are cool with it. Brianfriedman will not do that. and I hate asking certain people to do that because it's just such a waste, to do. And then, in terms of artistic dances, belly dances, believe me, are very popular. I was very surprised. Twerks is another one that's, so anything that's sexy.
Hitting the records. That's hitting the records.
Oh yeah, so twerks are very that's a big
I
and
think
we
with
could do more.
twerks, we've seen a lot of TikToks rising, with all these short dances. Say for example, the
Right.
twerks, or say for example, one specific dance from Second Life actually. So what is your take on that? Have you watched any of the TikToks from Second Life?
Not from Second Life. I don't think I might have seen few, but I haven't. I mean, I don't really watch TikTok in general, except if it's like from a well-known TikTok dancer, and I'm just researching them. But I haven't actually seen that.
If it's basically just like real life. So Second Life TikToks have actually, I think, previous 4 or 5 months, it has skyrocketed high. And you see these short dances, they are actually being clipped and played on TikToks, and from there people are actually loving like these small dances. So a lot of YouTubers are starting to do with creating YouTube shorts as well.
I heard about that.
Yes. I think everything is just becoming very, very small, just like in a fraction of a second, you want everything on your table. So
Yeah, because people's attention is so short, so they just don't want to be, and also, their time too. So it's like, if you can get it in as short as possible, then, more power to you, right?
one of the questions which make us ponder and is about the SL male community. Now, we loved when you introduced Magic Mike. I mean, that dances and the YouTubes I saw on these Paragon dances for Magic Mike was mind-blowing, hot as ever, brilliant choreography, and it was amazing. It was a delight to watch. What would you say, how much do you cater for the male community on SL?
The biggest issue, I guess, even that most of the market is female, right?
Yeah.
But as a male dancer, no, I gotta represent the guys, right? So I would say, so we do 3 releases a month for the most part, and one of them will always be a male dance. So I would say maybe about a good 30% of our inventory is
And that's really cool because
Yeah.
the more incorporation of, you see all these male dancers getting out there and,
Right.
vlogging for Paragon, dancing on Paragon tunes. I mean, I absolutely love it because I've never seen this happen before. All these dances, as you said, when before finding a gap in the market, was all very female centric, very female oriented. It's really good to have these male dancers come in. It's really good to have something for men, out here. So in fact, they feel more
Absolutely.
incorporated as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The female dancers too. I mean, there's some great ones, but there's so many male dancers that I want to bring to Second Life. So definitely got to represent. Even though market is as you say it is. I'm not here just for the money. I mean, the money will come when you're successful. And we already do well. So I just at the point it's the important thing is listening to the market, because the market is what determines your value. So I do, and the hardest thing for any creator is to I think Daniel Hawthorne saying it the best. It's like to make a living with your pen, and also expressing yourself, your creative self, right? So there's always that dichotomy that you have to balance. So there's always me that okay, I want to put out these creative type of dances that I'm inspired by. At the same time, you do have people that says okay, what about the majorette dances? This type of dances, shuffle dances, country dances. I said I'm gonna do them. I said just hang in there. It's gonna we only do like 3 releases a month, so it's like we'll get to them.
I think dance is a form where no matter if you're a female or if you're a male, or if you're anything else, really, it's one thing that brings everyone together in terms of happiness, in terms of sadness. So I think it's quite
Absolutely.
it's quite a commendable job that you're doing, bringing dances to groove. So that's brilliant out there, and especially catering to also not so left out the male community as well. So brilliant approach on that. One of the questions I got was, does Paragon have any future initiative where it would bring out kind of robotic dances?
Oh, okay, like pop and lock, robotic dances. Yeah.
Pop and lock for robotic, yes. Like say
Yeah,
for example, for the superhero fans, etc.
that genre is even extends outside of the whole superhero genre. It's been
Yes.
around for a long time. The whole pop lock, yeah, absolutely. That's something that I actually grew up with. So that's something that I definitely take to heart. And again, and it's a matter of it's a very very niche genre though. Like I said, it's kind of like on the level of cyber industrial dances, which I think is very very cool dance. And so it's a matter of number one is finding the right dancer for that. So cyber industrial is very tough because it's mostly in Germany. It's popular in Germany. It's pretty much non-existent here in Hollywood, Los Angeles. So for me to get the dancer like that, I'm gonna have to. So that's gonna take some planning. And but later on we're gonna do that for sure. I even had you're from UK, so Northern. Oh God, it just slipped my mind. It was called Northern. It was very popular in the UK. That I thought was really cool, and it was kind of like the groundwork almost for back in the disco era, and it's very niche, and that's something that I want to bring to later on. It's just a matter of kind of scattering it out, distributing it. Club groove here and there, and then you have a popular trendy dances and something that's a little bit more obscure. Just it's not gonna be a big sell, but it's
I think it would cater to the community. I mean, I'd say like it's better to have dances which are new to the market, new to the audience, and people automatically come and dance with it. If there's nothing out there in the market, then we would not even know how to react to that. So definitely, even though it's a niche market, as you mentioned, but I think once it's out here, once you try to bring it in Second Life, I think people will really admire it, and have these new creative ideas that they can use with these pop and lock dances as well.
I agree. I've seen that happen too. I've seen that happen with certain dance genres. People didn't know about them before, and then they see it and they go, "Oh wow, that's pretty cool," and they end up getting it. So yeah, you're absolutely right on that.
Absolutely. We will continue our conversation with Jon Nakagawa in the part 2 of this episode, coming out next Thursday. So stay tuned and hit that like button and subscribe to join the family. You know the drill.